Hello and welcome to this episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. I'm your host, Jordan Samuel Fleming, chairman and co-founder of Smartphone. Today's episode, really fun conversation. Daniil Kleyman from Rehab Valuator is on the show today. Daniil, so we had, unbeknownst to me, we obviously share an affinity for Eastern Europe, since I am in Eastern Europe and he is from there as well. But we had a great conversation, and it was really fun to dive into some of the areas that Rehab Valuator fixes in terms of as a software looking at how you accurately scope a rehab deal. And it was so, diving into the mistakes people make in not counting hard money loans properly and not understanding and putting a full investment package together and understanding the numbers means you can be thinking you're making a ton of money, and you can end up, after you pay off all your loans, being in debt. And it's really easy to do in the rehab world. I've seen it, I've heard it. And we really dive into sort of how Daniil's journey as an investor and trying to start really professionalizing his investment business led him to creating this software, led him to creating software which can analyze properly, pull together funding package prospectuses, and really give you the nitty gritty details you need if you're going to be a successful rehabber. And it was a really interesting conversation because we did get to dive into some of those bits that probably aren't as sexy for people, right? People think of the big numbers. They think, oh, I'm going to rehab this and I'm going to make 250 grand on this project. But they don't think of all those little line items and all of those abilities to dot the I's and cross the T's, which in rehabbing in particular, in my view, from my experience and seeing people who do it all the time, the details, the devil really is in the details. And Daniil has a really great way of diving into this. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity to listen to a guy who clearly knows what he's talking about and has built a piece of software that has a free plan that you can check out right away. And that really can help you on your journey, not only as a rehabber, but also as a wholesaler. Have a good listen. And I'm live here with Daniil. Welcome to the podcast. I really apologize if I didn't pronounce that exactly right.
I just go by Daniil.
Daniil,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I live in Poland, so I live in Poland. So
okay.
I most names, particularly sort of Eastern and Baltic, those I'm usually okay with. But I always like to check. So anyway, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself, and you can educate us on exactly how to pronounce your name.
Sure. It's Daniil Kleyman. I don't live in Poland, but I grew up in Russia, so not super far from you. I grew up in Moscow. Now I live in Richmond, Virginia with my family. I've got a wife and 3 fairly young, crazy children. They're a lot of fun. I've been in the real estate business and in the software business since I got kicked to the curb from my corporate job back in 2008. And it was wonderful. They put me out of my misery, kicked me out, and I got into real estate, and it's been a really interesting journey. So I'm happy to talk about that if that's worthwhile. Right now, my real estate business primarily consists of ground up development. We build apartment buildings and we build mixed use properties, Class A, high end properties that I then hold in my portfolio. A lot of what I do is urban infill. I like to do mixed use is really my passion. We build projects where we have local neighborhood businesses that populate ground floor of our buildings, apartments above it, really walkable, attractive buildings that make the neighborhoods that we develop in more attractive and more walkable. And I've got, side of my business, we built for sale housing as well. And then I have a software company called It's here somewhere. We're redesigning our shirts because every time I'm on the podcast, I have to do this. And it looks like I'm about to flash somebody. I mean, it's highly inappropriate. So yeah, I have to do this. or I have
It's
to aim the camera
absolutely
down.
appropriate in my
It's
podcast, my
also
friend.
risky because now you've got to stare at my stomach. We also have these stupid QR codes, and we realize that nobody ever will scan them because if a woman is wearing them, you have to walk up and point it at her
You gotta-
chest to scan. So you want to talk about poor t-shirt design, Jordan? You've got to be careful with me because I'll go off on a weird tangent like that. But yes,
You and I are going to get along fine. You and I are going to get. And as an aside, I've been to Moscow. I've been to Moscow, and I took the train. Nobody listening to this will understand this, but I took the train from Moscow to Murmansk. I took that train through past St. Petersburg, up all the way up to the Karelia region and up there. And I did it.
Did you go? What were we there?
It was 2007, and I did it in January. And so you can imagine how cold that was.
Plowing through the snow. Was the
And
train?
it's a 32-hour. Yeah, it's a 32-hour train ride. It was pretty intense.
Trains are great. You can sit in the cafe car. They'll feed you good Russian food. Maybe sling a little vodka back. I don't know if that's your thing, but trains are awesome.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I just my connection went for a bit. I apologize. Well, listen, Daniel, what we'll do. I'm excited to talk to you for a number of reasons. So this podcast, obviously, it's all about kind of exploring the world of real estate investment technology. It's a space. One of the things that drives me nuts is that every investor needs technology. Every investor thrives on technology, and there really isn't enough. There's a lot of technology options, but not enough understanding of them, not enough publicity, not enough ways. And that's why I started this podcast. So let's start with what drove you to build your system itself. What were you trying to solve? And then we'll dive into a bit about what it does, how it helps people, and kind of break that down. But what drove you to do it, first of all?
So I created it for my own real estate business originally, and my pain points were twofold when I first got into real estate. It was deal analysis, and it was also securing private money. So that's really where the software started, is deal analysis for wholesale, fix and flip, and BRRRR deals, buy, rehab, rent, refi, repeat. And then I needed something that I could put in front of private lenders. At the time, I didn't really have much experience. At the time, I didn't really have a whole lot of credibility. And I certainly was not bankable. I could not show up to a bank and ask for a loan. They would politely escort me out, put security, maybe not so politely. So I needed to put something in front of private individuals that would make them feel comfortable to lend me money on a short-term basis for deals. And so originally that's what the software focused on. And interesting enough, to this day, this is still what we do, in my view, better than anybody. It's analysis and then funding proposals for private lenders, for banks. Now in my business, we use the software and our clients have done it all over the world, to secure construction loans. I mean, we've gone after $20+ million construction loans using the software. But originally, that was my pain point. I needed something that I could put in front of a private lender and make them think, okay, this person understands the numbers. This person understands how the deal is structured. This person understands what I care about as a lender, which is protecting my principal and getting paid back. And I'm looking at a presentation that shows me all of those things. That's how we get started.
That's fantastic. And that's such an interesting part of I've watched so many investors over the year, and investors as they scale up and as they sort of, particularly what people who just come into the real estate community, investment community, most of them will start out with wholesaling for obvious reasons, less capital, less cost of entry. But as they start to kind of get going, inevitably they'll move into looking at doing a rehab. And some of them will look into doing it well and do it well. And many will do their first rehab really, really badly. But I'll bet you nobody has the real ability to do what you just taught, that ability to understand the numbers and put it together in a package that can be credible is not only is something that I would guess when you first start out, you don't even have a clue about, but even as you scale up, it's still critical to do the numbers correctly and to pull all this stuff together.
Well, and arguably, as you scale up, having better access to capital gets even more important, because even if you did have that one uncle that was willing to lend to you for your fix and flip deal, now if you're trying to scale into multiple deals, you're having to build relationships with other people that may not be so quick to lend you money without you building credibility with them first and making them understand that you know what you're doing. So yeah, we still focus on that aspect very heavily in our software. And then since then, we've obviously improved it tremendously, but we've overlaid data on the front end. So we have now, in the US, we have deep nationwide data for every property, every owner, mortgage history, sale history, all the property characteristics, all the linked properties, motivation. We just rolled out an update this morning where we now have, I can pull up your address, but I can see all the other properties that you own, how much money you owe on those properties, when you purchased them. I can see if any of them are in foreclosure, what motivation factors they have. And so we've overlaid that. We've overlaid comparable sales. We have nationwide comparable sales data. So now you can much more accurately evaluate, if you're wholesaling a house, what are the houses selling for in this area? What is this property going to be worth when it's renovated? So you can determine your offers more accurately. We have nationwide rental comps as well, so that if I'm developing a rental property, or if I want to convert a single family house to a rental, I can see exactly what houses in the same area are renting for. And then we've tacked on a massive yet pretty simple to use project management component. So you can build out renovation budgets, templates with all your costs populated, so that on the second deal, you just press a button and it tallies up all your renovation costs, scheduling, tracking, accounting, lender draws. We've really kind of made an effort to build a simplified construction management software. And so the goal is, and you know our space. There's a lot of tools in our space that provide you with CRM. They provide you with lead gen. They provide you with
lead gen, CRM.
Motivated
The top fit that gets the deals.
Correct. So we've purposely chose to play in the other part of the business, which is our software can step in once you have a lead and help you do everything else. I've purposely stayed out of the CRM space because there's a lot of them out there, and there's lots of people that can do it better than us. We've largely stayed out of the lead gen space, but when you have a deal on your desk and you need to research that deal, you need to evaluate that deal, you need to look at different exit strategies. Should I wholesale it? Should I flip it? Should I hold it? If you're doing new construction, here's a piece of land. Here's the zoning. Here's what I can build on it. From analysis to funding to project management, we handle that part.
And I like also, it also sounds where you may have started with the real pain point of, rehabbing, finance packages, things like that. It is still very applicable to, for instance, a wholesaler who wants to make sure they can make the right offer quickly. And
of course.
Yeah. And the right offer, because, it's making sure that you really do understand before you, you try and get that contract signed. That's something that is not guesswork. It should not be guesswork. It should be informed.
No, I mean,
on data.
It can be guesswork, but you're going to make wrong offers all the time. So no, we cater, we have an interesting client mix. I mean, we have, I don't like to say on podcasts exactly how many paying clients we have, but it's many thousands. And it's an interesting client mix because we have newer, complete newbie investors that are wholesaling, all the way to people developing hundreds and hundreds of units ground up, and kind of everybody in between. It's a really interesting mix mix of people in our client base.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation, but I wanted to make sure you knew that Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors, connects to the best-in-class real estate investment CRMs. And because, as it's my show and I am co-founder and chairman of Smartphone, I got some great deals for you. Click the link and take advantage of 5,000 minutes free calling with Smartphone, the only phone system built for real estate investors. Click and call. Close more leads. Back to the show. Well, and also what I love about it is because I knew, but I didn't really have a deep understanding. But there are a lot of really great CRMs out there for real estate. There are a lot of great lead gen tools.
Yep.
You can catch the ball from all of them and go on, because none of the CRMs are really. Some of them pretend to be project management tools as well, but they're not. And
maybe project management in terms of getting to a contract, right? Like you can view that as project management, but not project management when you're actually doing the renovation or the new build.
Absolutely. And I think that's really great, because there are, it also means that you can play with anybody. You can catch the ball from anybody, and you've got a very specialized set of skills that you that you clearly have lived. You've built because you've lived them, and you know exactly where those pain points are, and exactly, you know exactly. It's like so funny, because we've got, obviously we're a phone system. But I know that some of our customers use us to, for instance, track all the calls with their contractors when they're doing a rehab, and making, they'll use they'll get them to send pictures, or they'll do video calls with them using our platform to get them to give their daily reports, etc., and suck them in. But they're sucking them into a CRM that is really not meant for that part of the project.
Yeah,
it's just
jury-rigging it.
Yeah, they're jury-rigging it together because they need something in order to do it. And they want to make sure they're capturing those communications against it. So they're usually using two systems. One, a lot of times an Excel spreadsheet, to be honest, to do a lot of the rehab stuff. And then they're using their kind of lead generation CRM as a way of keeping the contacts and managing it like that. So I do understand the pain points which a lot of these investors go in, particularly when they start getting contractors in and they underestimate here, they overestimate here, they miss the details. And when you miss details, you're talking about losing money, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that the biggest, like, if you were thinking about, if you're starting rehab, let's take someone who's thinking about starting a rehab, what would you say, with all your experience doing it and with the software, what would you say the biggest mistakes a lot of first-time rehabbers use or fall into?
I'd say, well, two things. Not understanding the scope and not properly estimating the scope. But the other thing that I've seen a lot of people miss is just how much money is going to cost you. They're all determining their offers based on some formula that either ignores or underestimates the cost of capital. And if you're borrowing money for, 3-4 points and 10 or 12% interest, and it takes you a year or 14 months before you can pay your lender off, your money costs you close to 20%. That's huge. And a lot of people don't take that into account. And that's something we've tried to solve for in our software, because if you're properly entering your numbers, you can very easily model your cost of money, and it's very much taken into account in the analysis. And we try to impart that on our clients and newer investors, because there's no quicker way to get wiped out than to think you're making money on the deal, and by the time you get done paying, especially if you're paying, your lender on the back end. Oftentimes, a lot of these newer investors will get a hard money loan where maybe they don't have to make payments or points on the front end, but on the back end, you owe 17-20%. You think you're making money and you're not. at all.
It's a harsh wake up call when the deal's all done and you suddenly realize you're net down
Yeah.
20 grand when you thought you'd be up 200.
And it's like, what did I just do all that work for? I just worked for free.
Absolutely. And as as you say, that analysis, like, I think sometimes people also approach it, from what I've seen, sometimes people just approach it as though it was an abstraction, like as though it wasn't specific to each property. And so they, like, as I think you mentioned, they'll have a formula. We think the IRV is going to be this, therefore, blah, 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 and this is going to be fine. But the specifics is what's going to kill you.
It's always the details. Yeah. It's always the details. I mean, same thing in our ground up projects. It's always the small things that I forgot to take into account that end up hitting me in the face and narrowing my margins. And so in my business, the effort is constantly on better checklists, better analytics to make sure that we don't keep making the same mistakes again and again, and don't keep missing things in our analysis, in our numbers, because it's always in the details.
Fantastic. I mean, it's such an interesting point. And if you like, for the second part of the, there's the figuring out, there's the planning, there's the doing and tracking, and then there's the sort of marketing and the next step. Now, from what I understand of your platform, you've got that brought in as well. The deal marketing side of things.
So we have marketing for wholesalers. So if you're a wholesaler, you can create marketing packages to get that deal sold. We don't have built-in marketing. For example, if you've renovated a house and now you want to sell it, at that point we just tell people hire a realtor. So yeah, we essentially take it to a project completion where you either rent it out or you sell it, and we get you to that end point basically.
Fantastic. Is there any specific, I suppose, is there any specific feature that you would want to call out, or thing that it does that you think is absolutely invaluable that very other systems do as well as you?
So I'll be honest with you, I have no idea what other systems do. I absolutely do not look at competition. I barely know who my competitors are. I don't know if I have any competitors. I completely ignore it. So I can't say anything negative or positive about anybody else. I would say what's been very valuable for us is a very simple feature, but it's super useful, which is ability to save project-specific cost templates, so that if I've renovated the house, I have a scope of work that I typically do when I renovate this house. I always replace the windows. I always replace the carpet. I always paint. Well, you can build out your scope of work and you can enter what your typical costs are. Every time I replace a window, it costs me $400. And you can very easily save that as a cosmetic renovation template. And so next time I'm going to go and do a cosmetic renovation template, not only can I press a button and all my costs are pre-populated, but that scope is there so that I will not miss today the things that I had to figure out on the last project. And so I can press a button. My scope is already built. All I have to do is change out the quantity. I have 20 windows in this house. I have 1,000 square feet of carpet that I need to change out. I have 2,000 square feet that I need to paint. And it builds my budget and it makes my costs predictable. And it's, when used properly, it's something that can not just save you a lot of time, but it keeps you out of trouble.
Absolutely. And do you, I mean, I having, I had years and years ago, before smartphone, I built systems for people, And I remember having to build a rehab system and like, oh Jesus, like I mean, and holding costs this
Yeah.
and like getting the interest rate for this loan and putting it in here and all that. And it was super complex. And it never ended up going very far because it was too complex, quite honestly. They'd over engineered their brief to us.
Okay.
And it got right. And as you know, you can over engineer something to the point of it's no longer usable.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Too many options, too many bells and whistles, and that's always been a challenge, and it's always been kind of a line that we've tried to walk. Right? How do we continue adding features and continue adding functionality while making the software on the front end cleaner, simpler, and more user friendly? And you're basically trying to go in two different directions at the same time. And I think, as with any software design, that's always kind of it's the challenge.
You're always like we just launched a feature we just launched a redesign today, and I'm gonna be curious to watch to see how that goes. Let me ask you one final question before we move into the kind of I've got 3 rapid questions I'm gonna give to you, and then we'll let people know how they can reach out to you and get started and find out more. In terms of if you're going through that whole process, dealing with contractors, dealing with suppliers and all that is a critical part of the whole kind of play. How do you manage, it's one thing to set the budgets, to set what we're trying to do, the scope of work, but then you have to walk the walk and execute. And a lot of people will use contractors, they'll bring them in, or they'll be doing all that. How do you manage do you manage the contract element, who's being assigned to what, are they in time and all that? Is that something you guys manage, or is that kind of out of the scope?
Inside the software, you can build out scopes of work that you hand over to your contractors. You can build out schedules that obviously incorporate all of your subcontractor positions. We do not have functionality where we invite contractors and subcontractors into the software to collaborate, just because, again, that hasn't really been. First of all, from my experience, when I'm building residential projects, I can't get my painter to answer my email.
Yeah.
So, like, trying to get him to create an account in Builder Trend or Procore or whatever else, and trying to get him to go in there and forget it, right? I think when you're working at a much higher level with more sophisticated subcontractors, that's a different story. But we've chosen not to incorporate those features into our software because I think primarily our clients are running much simpler businesses. And so we manage our subcontractors still kind of old-fashioned way through email, text, and just constant communication.
No, absolutely. All right. Well, listen, let me move on. There's 3 questions I always ask everybody in the podcast, just to get a bit of a standardized answer and to show the differences between guests and their viewpoints. So I'll give you these 3 questions before we end with how people can get in touch with you. Mm-hmm. So question number 1 is, what is the biggest mistake you personally have made with real estate investing technology? Not just your own, but just in general with your journey.
With technology, I'd say I used to do direct mail campaigns a lot, and they were fairly targeted direct mail campaigns because I primarily was after land, but I did it manually for the longest time. I mean, I would literally print out letters and lick stamps, and I probably wasted a whole lot of time because they're very simple tools where you can upload a list of addresses and press go, and then they can actually send out those campaigns on a repeatable basis. And so I didn't embrace that technology. I think I should have embraced it years earlier. And
okay. What is your best advice on how to approach integrating technology into a real estate investing business?
I think you do it one tool at a time. It's just like building habits. If you wake up on New Year's and you make 17 New Year's resolutions and you're gonna lose weight and stop drinking and quit watching TV and wake up at 4 a.m, you're gonna break. You're not gonna do any of those things, right? We look at stacking our technology stack the same way that we look at habit stacking, which is adopt one tool at a time, make sure it has the right place in your business, make sure you learn how to actually properly extricate value from that tool, and then add additional things to your technology stack. If you try to do many at once, you're going to give up.
I'll take that. That's a great answer. And I agree with you 100%. And then final question. If someone is just starting out, and let's pick as a wholesaler let's pick as a rehabber. Someone's just starting out in rehabbing. What 3 technology products or types of products would you recommend they start with? It doesn't have to be brands, just like what are the 3 key technology bits of pieces that you think are critical?
So you need a source, you need a source of data, you need a source of leads, you need somebody to market to. You need a system. You don't even necessarily, when you're starting out, need a CRM. CRMs can get complicated. You don't need a CRM. But you need something to intake leads into. So you need. Wait, we're talking about rehabbers, not wholesalers, right?
Rehabber.
Sorry,
Rehabber.
I went off.
I was going to say that sounds more wholesaling, but let's go rehabbers if someone's just getting started.
So for rehabbing, I would say you need a tool like ours where you can build real thorough budgets and run your numbers to make sure that deals where you think you're making money, by the time you factor in real cost of money, you're actually making money. I don't think as a beginning rehabber you necessarily need project management software. If you're running 1 or 2 jobs at a time, you don't need to build Gantt charts. You don't need sophisticated accounting. You need. I feel like rehabbing honestly is easy. I go back to when I was rehabbing 1 or 2 houses. It was like a very simple part-time job. I think that business, less so than wholesaling, less so than a lot of other businesses, is really not technology heavy. You need good subcontractor relationships, good contractor relationships, good supplier relationships, and you need something very simple to kind of manage communication with them. Text and email. You need your iPhone.
Okay, I'll take it. I mean, it doesn't always have to be a complicated technological answer. I mean, if you're just getting started, getting a couple deals under your belt in a low-tech way is nothing wrong with that.
I think oftentimes people mistake signing up for things for doing things, and they're not the same, right? And so, yeah, you don't, to get started, to do deals, you don't need a lot of fancy tech or tools. You need to do it.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Daniel, it's been an absolute pleasure. Both, this has been very fun, but also informative. So how can people reach you? How can people get started and learn more? Give the plug for everybody listening.
Sure. So we have a completely free version of our software that we give away. It's no strings attached. It's a feature limited version of the software where you can do all of the deal analysis. It locks out the other features of the software. But if you go to, and I'm going to flash the audience together, if you go to rehabvaluator.com, you can sign up for a free version. I'm also pretty easy to find on social media. If you go to Instagram at rehabvaluator.com, on YouTube at rehabvaluator.com, at rehabvaluator. So YouTube / at Rehab Valuator, Instagram / at Rehab Valuator. We have a ton of content that we post, especially on YouTube. I have a lot of education on real estate development, like deep dive, 45-minute, hour-long videos on real estate development that we publish. So you can pretty easily find me on social media as well.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure that all those links go into the show notes. Please do check Daniel out. Check Rehab Valuator out. It's a fantastic signing tool for me. I love what it's doing. There is a free plan, which is also fantastic. Daniel, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Jordan. Thank you for having me. It's nice to talk to another Eastern European.
Kind of. I'm a half and half. I'm Canadian, but I moved to Eastern Europe 10 years ago, and I also have an office in Romania.
Well, you're an Eastern European now.
I'm the food. I'm all about the food. So
I bet. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun.
Thanks for listening to another amazing episode of That Real Estate Tech Guy. Head over to thatrealestatetechguy.com to check out all episodes and get special discounts on tons of awesome real estate technology platforms.